Welcome to the Monday, January 27th, 2020 Township Trustee Meeting, and I'd like everybody to raise for the flag. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do you remain standing, please? I'd like to have a moment of silence for Jeff McGrath, Planning and Development Director for the City of Beavercreek, and for Mike Pittman, Sugar Creek Township Trustee. Thank you. We have an agenda. Are there any changes or corrections?
Yes, Board, I'd like to add an executive session for Ohio Revised Code 121.22G1 to consider the compensation of a public employee.
Thank you. Any other changes or modifications? Hearing none, I'll accept a motion.
Make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
I second.
Mr. Kretz?
Yes.
Mrs. Dean?
Yes.
Ms. Wallace?
Yes. We have a general ledger report.
I make a motion to accept the general ledger report in the amount of $431,655.84 for the January 15th, 2020 payroll.
Second.
Mrs. Dean?
Yes.
Mr. Kretz?
Yes.
Ms. Wallace?
Yes.
I'll make a motion to accept the payment listing reports in the amount of $193,363.33 for warrants through January 24th, 2020.
I second.
Mr. Kretz?
Yes.
Mrs. Dean?
Yes.
Ms. Wallace?
Yes. There are no minutes, so we're going to go to any citizens that are desiring to speak. You get 3 minutes each. Seeing no citizens, we'll move down to old business. There's none. New business? None. Go to our administrator, Mr. Zahari.
Thank you, Board. As discussed in the budget meetings about a reorganization and combining fire prevention and the zoning and planning department into the community development risk department. I have 2 job descriptions for your consideration today. First one is on page 4. There is no red line because these are new for the new position. And then once that, and I'll just need a simple motion to approve as presented. This also has been reviewed and approved by legal. And then we'll have a resolution placing the new administrator.
Does anyone see any other corrections or additions to this job description?
I have none.
I have none.
Hearing none, can I get a motion, please?
I'll make a motion to approve the position title Community Development and Risk Administrator as presented.
I second.
So you doing one at a time?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, just making sure. Mr. Kretz?
Yes.
Mrs. Dean?
Yes.
Ms. Wallace?
Yes.
Thank you, Board. On page 7 is a resolution appointing, and my recommendation and staff's recommendation is to combine the current fire marshal position, which is being currently held by Randy Grogan, and also make him the administrator of the department.
Am I just reading this as
Yeah,
presented?
you could do it as presented, yep.
I make a move to adopt the resolution as to hire the Community Development and Risk Administrator as presented.
Second.
Mrs. Dean?
Yes.
Mr. Kretz?
Yes.
Ms. Wallace?
Yes.
Thank you, Board. As a part of the reorganization, I'm recommending an Associate Economic Development and Zoning Administrator. I have a job description here on page 11 of your packet. Under qualifications and abilities, I do have one recommended change. And it says, currently it says, this person must have the knowledge. I would recommend to it read, this person must demonstrate the ability to perform, and then list those below. That's the only recommended change. If there's no other suggestions, congestion, it's as presented with the modification.
I'll make a motion to approve the position title Associate Economic Development and Zoning Administrator as amended.
I second.
Mr. Kretz?
Yes.
Mrs. Dean?
Yes.
Ms. Wallace?
Yes.
Thank you, Board. Next item's on page 12 is to fill that position. Staff is recommending Max McConnell serve in that position. I have a resolution here with starting pay rates and everything else. You can also do it as presented.
I'll make a motion to approve a resolution to hire an Associate Economic Development and Zoning Administrator as presented.
I second.
Mr. Kretz?
Yes.
Mrs. Dean?
Yes.
Ms. Wallace?
Yes.
Thank you, Board. And as we all know that this day was going to come, and as a part of this, Mr. Amrine has announced that he is retiring January 31st. He has agreed to stay on as a part-time planner. He's done a lot for the township in his current role as the Planning and Zoning Administrator. He took the department just on the brink of the change in the economy where we were having record growth in Beavercreek Township, and was able to work with a lot of our developers and change the operations to be more efficient in the zoning office. And in the process between PUD that comes before the zoning commission and to the Board of Township Trustees. In the past, it would take a couple months to get a development approved or a PUD approved, and I believe we've got that down to, if at all, it takes maybe 2 months or 2 meetings between the zoning commission and Board of Township Trustees. So I personally want to thank Ed for everything he's done for the township in this position, his guidance and leadership in the department. And of course, I think we made a great team when it came to economic development and some of the things that we brought here. So, but with that, I would recommend hiring Mr. Amrine as our part-time planner. I do have a resolution here, and simply could be as presented.
Thank you.
I had a question before we go down the bus. So do we need, we reference a retirement effective January 31st in this. Do we need to have a resignation for that position?
We received a letter already from Mr. Amrine.
Okay. Do we need to accept that before we do this?
We can accept
You
it,
can.
but it's
Or
part of the
if it's
retirement,
part of
so,
this, is
yeah,
in there. Okay.
yeah,
Just
He-
so it's clean.
yeah.
Anything I can do to delay this, Ed, I will. Randy, I have 100% faith in you.
I move to make a motion to, a resolution to hire a part-time planner for, Mr. Ed
Amrine.
Amrine. I'll get it right. Effective, for January 31st, 2020, as presented.
Second. Is it
Effective
actually effective February 1?
Third.
February 3rd, yeah, he's retiring the 31st, effective January 31st, and will come back that week as a part-time planner.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, correction, February 3rd.
Mrs. Dean?
Yes.
Mr. Kretz?
Sorry, quick question. Is there any concern with a lapse in employment between the 31st and the 3rd?
Yeah, it's just the
What else?
weekend.
From a
Just
benefit
wondering.
standpoint, is
Yeah.
there any?
So I figured it would probably
issue.
take effect, right?
Okay. But from an HR perspective, there's no lapse in, okay.
Mrs. Dean?
Yes.
Mr. Kretz?
Yes.
Ms. Wallace?
Yes.
And did we just make sure we get a copy of that resignation letter?
Sure.
Thank you.
And before we go any further, Mr. Amrine, I appreciate your dedication that you've given to the township for all these years. And if you give us only half of your dedication as a part-time planner, I think we will be well served. So thank you so much for everything you've done for us.
Thank you, Board. The next item I have is a resolution accepting the monetary funds and donation from Mr. Roger Coy As indicated in the budget meetings, Mr. Coy and I serve on a committee together. He's been very pleased with what the township has done with the Coy House, which is currently behind the cemetery, and the maintenance. As you know from the budget meetings, we do have a new roof planned this budget year for the Coy House. He came in after I talked about some things we were doing with the house and wrote a check for a donation. I said timing's everything, and this will just offset the cost of the roof that we plan to put on this year. I have two copies here of the resolution accepting the donation of monetary funds. One for the fiscal office, one to come back for Mr. Coy, kind of recognizing his donation to the township, and they can be both as presented.
It's two copies of the same?
Two copies of the
Yeah,
same, yes.
This is one.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve a resolution accepting the donation of monetary funds from Mr. Roger Coy as presented.
I second.
Mr. Kretz?
Yes.
Mrs. Dean?
Yes.
Ms. Wallace?
Yes.
Thank you, Board. Next item is on page 17 of your packet is the biweekly report for the Sheriff's Office. Are there any questions?
I had none with regards to the report. I just was going to ask for an update with regards to new deputies coming on and where we stand. And where
So we
things are
actually
at.
start this weekend. The female deputy Kessel that works midnights has been out here for a few years. She is still on maternity reassignment. I think the baby is due in April, and then at which point then she'll take her maternity leave. So in the meantime, we have another deputy that will be coming out and taking her spot effective this weekend. And then on day shift, Deputy Thomas, who has also been out here for a few years, has decided to go back to regular rotation, regular shift. And then we're also receiving another deputy this weekend to take his place. The other two, Deputy Thorne, who's here, and Deputy Moore that also works midnights, are going to stay in the township for this next year.
You have any other questions?
No.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And be safe out there.
Thank you, Board. Next item is on page 37 of your packet is the Human Resource Biweekly Activity Report. Are there any questions?
I had no questions.
All right, thank you, Board. First item under zoning, which will have a new title next trustee meeting. This was something I apologize, my fault, in regards to the reorganization. It was something we discussed last year with a presentation, as well as discussion in the budget meeting, was to become a member of the Dayton Development Coalition. I do have a motion on page 42 with purchase request as well.
Any comments? I believe that we should become members. I think the Dayton Development Coalition has been pretty instrumental in driving a lot of economic development in the total area, Miami Valley area, and whatever help we can get to get some businesses, more businesses in the township, I think would be excellent, and being a part of this group, I think, would be helpful to the township. Any other comments? I need a motion.
I make a motion to approve the purchase request to the Dayton Development Coalition for the annual 2020 membership in the amount of $5,500, and to authorize the township administrator to sign for the board.
Second, with just some brief discussion, I would just ask that a year from now, we essentially measure what value we've received from that
Absolutely.
membership, because it is pricey.
Yeah.
Compared to some other ones. Just so that we have a measurable return essentially on that investment.
Right, yes, and part of that is also some of the information that we're already receiving with our intent last year to join. They did a GIS land inventory process for us, and we're receiving emails now from the Dayton Development Coalition when they are looking for space. Ed and I are receiving those emails now so that we can be aggressive in regards to answering, saying we have this space or we have this land available. So we're already, last year, Ed and I kind of commented, we were already getting some services out of them essentially for free, just because they know what we have and the ability. And they're very active and involved with the Ohio University project as well. So I have listed this as part of the reorg next year, so we'll definitely have something to prepare at that point.
Great.
Mrs. Dean. Read it.
Just go ahead.
Mrs. Dean.
Yes.
Mr. Kretz.
Yes.
Ms. Wallace.
Yes.
Thank you, Board. On page 43 begins your bi-weekly activity report for the zoning department, which once again will have a new name change. However, I did provide at your spot here an updated zoning inspector bi-weekly status from what's in the packet. So Mr. Amrine's here to answer any questions at his last meeting as the department head of the department.
No more reports, Mr. Amber.
Well, I wouldn't say that, but I want to take the opportunity to thank this board and previous boards, all the elected officials I've worked with, and I would include Mr. Zahariev in that gratitude. I feel that I couldn't have asked for better support, more steadfast and consistent support that, frankly, I came to think of as predictable support, and that's important as I moved ahead in doing some of the work that I did and had to make decisions, whether they were about zoning or development or in response to a contractor or a developer. And I always felt that I would have the backing of the elected officials, and that's a priceless strength to have in a position like this. And I want to thank the board for the opportunity to serve and for that consistent support over the years. I trust that Marshall Grogan will receive the same level of support, and I look forward to working with him in that capacity.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good job, Ed.
Thank you.
Any questions on the zoning report?
Is the new administrator ready to take questions? Okay. Alex, any movement on the McIntyre farm as far as any activity there?
None that I know of. However, I will tell you, Randy's been already involved in a lot of meetings in the last several weeks regarding meeting with different developers. We are starting to see some interest in some commercial development in the township, and actually I believe they had a meeting before this, the township trustee meeting today regarding that, but nothing that has been brought to our attention in regards to the McIntyre property.
The only reason I ask is it was brought to my attention there was equipment out there, old earth-moving equipment. And so to maybe just take a drive-by or make sure we don't run into another, like we had in Wood Ridge 3, where we had things being moved around before anything was approved or recorded.
We will go up and take a look.
Okay.
Good. Thank you. Information technology.
Thank you, Board. On page 49 of your packet is the bi-weekly report. Are there any questions?
Things seem to be going smoothly.
Yeah, we are getting ready to do some major updates for the Office Suite and Windows 10. So we are trying to schedule that so it's minimal downtime for all the departments as we do it. We try to get it done during the holiday in January. But we did the servers instead and updated that, and so we ran into a few issues updating some of the servers, so we didn't get that done. So we have President's Day coming up, and so we'll probably look at having Back to Business come in and then do all the updates there.
Okay. Thank you. Roads.
Thank you, Board. On page 52 is the bi-weekly report for the road department. Are there any questions?
Well, at least we're saving salt.
Yeah, they
And
were
beet
out
juice.
yesterday, though.
Yes, they did
Yeah.
go out yesterday morning for 3 hours, so that number's increased a little bit since the other day.
You put out salt or beet juice?
Both, whenever we put down salt, we put down the beef juice.
Oh, okay. Any questions from? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Board. First item under the Fire Department is a request approval for surplus and disposal of items. I do have a resolution here for it, and it can be as presented. And the items are on the back of the resolution as well.
So with this request for disposal, we'll have that area down in the bay will be all cleared out?
Mostly cleared out, yes. We're working on it.
Alrighty.
The reason I say that is unfortunately that's the staging area, so as more stuff comes to surplus, it's gonna go there before it goes out.
I
But we
understand.
will reach an end at some point.
Hey, it's good to get rid of stuff that's not working.
Yes, ma'am.
No, we're on the surplus.
Yeah, the surplus first, it's on.
Just read the title as presented.
Sorry.
I move to adopt the resolution of finding certain township equipment to be surplus and authorizing the fire chief to dispose of it, as presented.
Second,
Mrs. Dean?
Yes.
Mr. Kretz?
yes.
Ms. Wallace?
Yes.
Thank you, Board. Next item is a request approval to purchase online training service. Budget justification starts on page 53 with a motion on page 54. Fire Chief's here to answer any questions. I also have a purchase request.
I had a question on, is this the training that our firefighters have in the back room there that is on the computer that they have to go through?
You're probably thinking Blue Card with that,
Blue
where they're
Card.
using the tablets?
Yeah.
No, this is continuing education credits for both fire and EMS certifications. It's one we have had for, I don't know how many years now, probably since we've had just about the internet. What it does is allows, we offer a large number of trainings through our practical trainings at the house down here, like you've seen in the basement. But we do have this as a catch-all for crews that need to have a few more hours for the recertification, or more often if they need hours in a particular area. So some of the certifications like EMS require to have a certain number of geriatric hours and a certain number of pediatric hours. And if they don't get that through the regular training, they can come here and get the additional hours that they need.
And that's on a computer training?
Yes, yeah, this is all online, so it's on demand. The crews can do it at any time. The nice thing about this is we're switching vendors this year. This one is tied in with the company that does all of our records management, so it will capture that so that when they do have to recertify, it's an easy report for them to run. And then if they're ever audited, it's a simple procedure to pull those up to get the audit taken care of.
Any other questions?
Is this a per seat or a bulk license?
I don't know how the total is for everything. I don't recall if it's a per seat or a bulk, or a site.
And the reason I ask is only if there are any other neighboring townships that use the same software, if it's a site license or a bulk license. If we could, in the future, if we could just maybe look for collaboration on a site license.
Absolutely.
Where we could split a cost.
Yeah, and I know Fairborn, or I shouldn't say I know, I'm fairly certain Fairborn is switching to our records management system, so they may be, next year, they may be a good one to reach out to. So, yeah,
If
we
it's
can do that.
obviously, if it's per seat, it doesn't work, but.
Mhm.
I'll make a motion to approve purchase request 07244 to Fire Rescue 1 for online training program subscription in the amount of $4,813 and authorize the township administrator to sign for the board.
I second.
Mr. Kretz?
Yes.
Mrs. Dean?
Yes.
Ms. Wallace?
Yes.
Thank you, Board.
Thank you, Board. Next item is to purchase fire gear for the members of the department. Budget justification starts on page 54 with a motion on page 55.
One note here, this is for the new hires that we have. We have more than anticipated because of a couple of the resignations. This is a not-to-exceed amount because we do reuse the gear that we have if at all possible. So if we have folks that come in and can be fitted or have the gear tailored to match them, we'll use that, and if not, then we need to have the gear made. So it's up to, I believe it's the 12 sets, and it's a not-to-exceed cost.
And just to give the public a little bit more explanation, we had the SAFER grant that offered positions for 9 people.
That's correct.
But now that we have this 6 more, there were people that were naysayers against the SAFER grant that we took that. But can you explain to the public how we've been able to have permanent firefighters out of this list?
Oh, absolutely. So we hired the 9, and the original 9 that were hired with the caveat that if the funding from the levy was not to go through, that we may not be able to make those positions permanent. With the successful passage of the levy in November, we were able to make those spots all permanent. And what we've seen is we've already gotten some churn in our employment with folks leaving. So the 9 that were originally hired are all gaining seniority now because we're having to replace those the old positions where folks have left.
So we want to
did that
thank
answer your
again the
question?
public, yes?
Absolutely.
Thank again for the passage of the fire levy
Yes,
to our
ma'am.
Beavercreek community.
Absolutely.
So we're bringing in more new people, which is
Yes.
great. Any other questions to the chief? Accept a motion?
I make a motion to approve purchase request number 10481 to Phoenix Public Safety Outfitters for up to 12 sets of structural firefighting gear in the amount not to exceed $43,746, and to authorize the township administrator to sign for the award.
Second.
Mrs. Dean?
Yes.
Mr. Kretz?
Yes.
Ms. Wallace?
Yes.
One other note, I probably should have mentioned this at the beginning, especially for Ms. Dean, who hasn't been here very long. We do have an accounting, and I'll find the sheet for you, and we'll have to probably have to update it with current values. But whenever we bring somebody on, we do have an onboarding cost. So we know when we bring them on, here's how much equipment, uniforms, training, all the different pieces and parts that go into that, so that we have a good idea of what it costs to bring a person in, not just once they're here, but that initial upfront cost that ends up being a bit of a sunk cost. The other piece is we know that when we can retain, we obviously save on that because we don't have the churn, and that goes back to the reason we originally went from a combination part-time, full-time department to an all full-time department, because a lot of those costs are lost. As soon as they come in the door, if they leave and you have to replace that person again, those are recurring costs. They end up becoming a recurring cost, whereas the longer we can retain folks in a full-time capacity, the more return we're able to get of that investment.
Thank you.
I think that goes to the point you were bringing up also, Ms. Walls.
Thank you, chief.
Thank you.
Thank you, board. Next item is the biweekly activity report. Are there any questions for the fire chief?
I have no other questions.
With the activity you had in Bath Township,
Yes, sir.
so any shortcomings as far as resources or surprises that you may not have accounted for before we took on that responsibility?
No, actually, fortunately, those are infrequent events, and the fact that it was we ended up having a rekindle fire there, which was in part because of the construction type and the contents and some challenges we had there. We expect some of those, and this is the first significant structure fire we've had in Bath, so out of a little over a year, that's probably about what I would have guessed if you'd asked me a year ago. We were able to utilize Wright Pat as a mutual aid partner. That was something that was agreed upon back when the discussions were happening, and they were invaluable in the assistance up there. Otherwise, yeah, we're going to occasionally, because we do have that service area, we are going to have structure fires, and I would put this squarely in the expected category for that.
But everything went as planned or better as far as communication with Wright Pat and the coordination?
Oh, yeah, Wright Pat was excellent. They were first on scene both times. It was just outside their gate, and so they were aggressive. We actually got mutual aid support from Fairborn on the second incident, so that was good to know that even with the history that we have there, that if we do need assistance, they're willing to provide it.
That's what I was concerned about.
Yeah, so it went very well.
I had no other questions.
Any questions?
Nope, no question.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you, Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Board, that's all I have.
Our legal advisor, our fiscal officer,
Nothing.
trustees, MVRPC, we have a meeting next week. MVR,
I also put the TAC information in your packet. so-
right, can we have that? RPCC,
I have a meeting tomorrow.
there you go. Health Department, not till March. I think.
Yeah.
The school superintendent, city manager.
Continue to meet with the city manager on various topics. I do have a meeting with city manager tomorrow, or excuse me, Wednesday. Talk about some different projects. I'm happy to report in regards to the tornado, that grinding of the debris started this morning at 8 a.m. The first truck left about 9 o'clock, full of chipped debris. So that is moving as we expected, and our staff, road department staff's involved in that as well. Superintendent, actually, I have a meeting this week also, or excuse me, next week, the 6th, with the superintendent, so I'll provide any updates. I did have a meeting with the superintendent at Ohio University regarding road modifications on the Indian Ripple, other discussions in regards to joint operations between the two campuses, and so it was a very good meeting.
Good. Green County Township Association, we're hosting the next meeting.
Correct, we are hosting on the 11th and it will be at Stonehill Village Clubhouse.
So hopefully all of us can go. Investment Oversight Committee.
We have a meeting Wednesday.
Yep, things are moving along then.
Mhm.
So without any other discussion, we'll move on to, I need a motion for executive session.
I move to make a motion to move to executive session under the Ohio Revised Code Section 121.22G1 to consider the compensation of a public employee.
Second.
Mrs. Dean?
Yes.
Mr. Kretz?
Yes.
Ms. Wallace?
Yes.
What you want to say?
Make a motion to come out of executive session
I second.
at 1:51 p.m.
Mrs. Dean?
Yes.
Mr. Kretz?
Yes.
Ms. Wallace?
Yes.
I make a motion to approve Lieutenant Steve DuBois' request for continued non-work related disability leave through February 18th, 2020.
Second.
Mrs. Dean?
Yes.
Mr. Kretz?
Yes.
Ms. Wallace?
Yes.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Oh, one more.
I make a motion to accept Lieutenant Steve DuBois' resignation effective February 18th, 2020.
I second.
Mrs. Dean?
Yes.
Mr. Kretz?
Yes.
Ms. Wallace?
Yes.
I still motion to adjourn.
Second.
Mrs. Dean?
Yes.
Mr. Kretz?
Yes.
Ms. Wallace?
Yes.
Thank
Thank
you,
you
Board.
very much.